This video is sponsored by Patreon. My Patreon. More details at the end of the video. Hello, here's my face. Yes, I have one. I'm not just a disembodied voice floating around. But hello, I thought I'd do another Q&A because it's been a while since I've done one, and I just thought, why not? So, I asked all you to give me questions, and you sent a lot of questions in. I won't be able to answer all of them. I had to miss some out. If I missed your question, just send it again next time I do one, or just ask another one. I don't know, it's up to you. But yeah, without any further ado, here's the Q&A. So inevitably, I had quite a few questions about Timeless Children and Series 13. I already spoke about that in my last Q&A, but since then I've had time to sort of think about it more, and if I was to write it, I think I'd probably go it somewhere kind of like this. So I'd have Series 13 with the Doctor coming across the division from the Timeless Children, the secret Gallifrey CIA basically, and she has a climactic battle with them, but then she regenerates, and she loses her memory just before she does so, and she regenerates into the 14th Doctor, who is Ruth. So Series 14 is initially all about Ruth working for the division, and then she uncovers some grand conspiracy or something like that. Then she goes rogue, fleeing to the Earth, where she hides as a human, fugitive of the Dune. Then that happens. She realises, oh, there's someone else calling themselves the Doctor. I'm supposed to be her, but I don't have any memory of that. So she then spends time reclaiming her memories and her sense of identity, and then Series 15 she fights the division again, this time winning and getting all of her memories back. And then she also realizes that her origins don't matter because she's just been on this long journey of self-identity. So I think that would be a good way of kind of saying, hey, ignore all this Timeless Child stuff, but we're not completely retconning it, we're just saying it really doesn't matter anymore. So that's probably how I try and fix it, but who knows how they're actually going to do it. And in a similar vein, I also had quite a few questions as to what I'd do if I could write Doctor Who, whether I would. So I would take the chance, even though it would 100% be way too much pressure. I'd rather do it and fail than never do it and just wonder what if I did. If I did write a series, which I totally haven't planned out in my free time already, I swear, no, definitely not. I would have a companion from the past with a tragic backstory, and initially she only wants to go on one trip, but then they end up going on a couple of other adventures, kind of like an opposite of the Doctor and Martha. And then she goes back home, but then realises that there's nothing left for her here, so she goes back to travelling. I wouldn't really have sort of an ongoing arc the same way as sort of Bad Wolf or Torchwood. It would more be like a character-based arc, seeing how, this companion from the past is growing, kind of similar to Series 1 with the Doctor after the Time War, kind of just overcoming their past grief and trauma. The finale would be seeded in a mid-series episode with no Doctor or companion at all. We're not even talking Doctor Light or Companion Light, just straight up Mission to the Unknown style. It would basically pick up from the end of Nightmare in Silver, where the Cybermite is just drifting through space, ends up going to a mining ship, and it's basically Alien, but with Cybermen and Cyber Zombies. And then the ship crashes, and in the finale, the Doctor and the companion go to the planet where it crashed on, just by chance, and they fight the Cybermite or whatever. But then they beat the Cybermite, Cyberplanet zombie thing. It would kind of be more like the Expanse proto-molecule rather than traditional Sideman stuff, giving it a new spin. And then the companion stays behind on the planet to help start a settlement of refugees who also crashed on the planet. And that would be the culmination, and she's found purpose at last. As I said, I totally haven't already planned this out. I swear I haven't. Not at all. KDrew257 asks, who's your favourite Doctor? Capaldi, but the absolute greatest is Mcgann. He's an absolute god among men, and I am firmly part of the Mcgann gang. Libby B says, if you had to pick one Doctor and one companion to return to Doctor Who would it be and why? Paul Mcgann has to return, because he's the greatest of all time. Hashtag Mcgann. And Martha should return too, because she's the only companion of Nuhu to get a nice ending, and it'd be nice to get a sort of school reunion style episode revisiting her. Alfie Ball said, assuming the rumours of Jodie and Chris stepping down are true, who would you want to see play the next Doctor, and which previous episode writer would you want to be showrunner? Firstly, they're not true, the rumours that they're not true. But I would love to see either Toby Whithouse or Pete McTighe as showrunner. I think they'd be able to do a solid job, and they have a clear passion for the show. Obviously, Toby Whithouse has written some good episodes in the past, and Pete McTighe, even though his episode in Series 12 was very boring, he's handling all of the collection booklet writing, so he clearly knows his stuff about the show, so I think he'd be a good showrunner. Glasgow Celtic and Train Fan asks, what actor would you love to be a companion, and why? I don't really follow TV actors or big name actors. I don't really follow all that behind the screen stuff, but I guess I'd like to see Jacob Anderson as a companion. He was great in Game of Thrones and I love his music, so I guess yeah, maybe him. He'd be interesting. Yuko says, should classic series stories be remade for the modern series with some changes and improvements? I think that would be a terrible idea. Let the classic stories remain untouched and stand on their own merit. Doctor Who should move forward, not backwards. Remaking stories would just be a sign of saying, yeah, we don't have anything anymore, we're just going to go back to what's already been done. I think that's not really a great idea. Stormgem Thunder asks, what if there was a Doctor Who story where someone from our universe somehow got transported to the Doctor Who universe? Yeah, that kind of happened already, but we don't talk about that because it had Jimmy Savile in it, so, that kind of, it doesn't really... it's kind of awkward. But, I think it would be interesting. I don't think it would work very well because it would kind of acknowledge that Doctor Who's a show in that universe. I'm not quite sure about the concept. Sideman Alf asks, which classic Doctor Who villain should come back next? The Rani. No, I'm just joking. Everyone always says that and it's really annoying. She shouldn't come back. I honestly have no idea. We've had pretty much all the good ones already with, the Zygons and Sontarans and everything like that. There aren't really any other ones that I'd probably say are, worth coming back. But if I had to pick, I'd probably say, another one of Sutek's species from, obviously, Pyramids of Mars. Sutek was an interesting character. I'd love to see another one of his race. And I totally don't say that because I've already written an episode with one. Definitely not. Paradise Towers asks, if the Sontarans are to return to the show, how would you like them to do it? Easy, Sontaran Civil War. Classic Who Sontarans that look a bit less goofy versus the New Who Sontarans. They could be fighting because the New Who Sontarans are a impure batch, because they're a clone army, and they bring shame to the Sontaran race. Just something to kind of acknowledge that the New Who Sontarans aren't really that scary or intimidating anymore. Because, honestly, as much as I like Strax, he has completely ruined the New Who Sontarans, and they're a complete joke now. So by bringing back the old Sontarans that just look a bit better than what they actually do look like, we could have a bit of an acknowledgement that the New Who ones are inferior. Young Simba 124 asks, who would be your top 3 returning villains from the modern series, and why? As much as I don't like to say it, the Weeping Angels have to be there just because they're so iconic and memorable. The Silence as well, and I kind of like the Slitheen, as much as everyone hates them. I think they could have been done a bit better with slightly better writing, but they were okay. Draken Garfinkel asks, what New Who villain do you want to see have a comeback? Which do you never want to see again? Bring back the Sycorax, there's a lot of potential with them. And I never want to see the Silence again, because their story's already been told, you can't really do anything else with them, it would kind of devalue them, just like what they did with the Weeping Angels. Black Cat asks, do you think that you can cheat the Weeping Angels by winking instead of blinking? No, Amy already did that and it didn't work. Yabu asks, what is your favourite Dalek and or Sideman design? It's purely nostalgia based, but the Russell T Davies versions of both. Although the Special Weapons Dalek is pretty cool. I mean, just look at that beefy boy. Stormgem Thunder asks, what mythical creature would you most want to appear on Doctor Who? I love a story about the Jersey Devil. I think there's a lot of potential there, and it's right up Doctor Who's street. It could make for a good horror episode, because I like sort of the mythology stuff. Giving a sci-fi explanation to whatever the Jersey Devil is, if it even is real, which it definitely isn't, It would be great to have like it be some sort of Doctor Who alien. Annoying Kid 47 asks, how are you? I'm good. How are you? Greg Links 5 asks, did you ever expect to blow up this much? Not in the slightest. I thought 1k would be the furthest I'd ever get, and even then I'd have to sell my kidneys and soul to the devil. Ali Shine asks, do you enjoy any other TV shows or movies? Quite a lot. Inside Number 9, Black Mirror, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, The Boys, Game of Thrones, up until halfway through season 8, The Last Kingdom, The IT Crowd, The Mandalorian, all sorts of stuff. It's all over the place. A bit of everything, really. Skylar Marsland asks, how do you pronounce Wholmes? Like that, Wholmes. Belinda D. Gale asks, can you speak another language? I can speak maybe a sentence in German if I'm lucky. I took it for GCSE and I somehow got a B, but I'm not quite sure how because I can't remember any of it. Russ says, express your fondness for the American Idiot Broadway musical. I hate musicals. I honestly can't stand them. But the American Idiot one is fantastic. It's so incredible, I love it. I even prefer some of the Broadway versions of songs to the original Green Day versions. Oh, and I totally haven't already planned out a limited series for a TV adaptation. Definitely not. Lord Neiman asks, do you like Doctor Who? No, I can't stand it. And then, I had like 3 people ask me how I started watching Doctor Who, just kind of, just lump them all together. I started watching when Rose first aired on the night. I don't remember anything about why I wanted to watch it or why I was hooked. I was kind of too young to remember anything from that time. But I must have loved it because it's been part of my life as far back as I can remember. TARDIS.cz asks, what is your favourite Doctor Who episode? Midnight. My friends over at Time of the Whovians United ask, what do you prefer, Midnight or Turn Left? As I said, Midnight, although Turn Left is incredible as well. HQW Savage and Pear Crazy asks, how much of the classic series do you own on DVD? This is how much I own. Res1 Akhtar asks, what's your favourite classic Doctor Who serial and why? I don't really have one. I haven't done a Classic Who watch through in ages, so I don't remember a whole lot of individual stories or whatever, but I've always kind of gravitated towards Ark in Space, probably because it's one of the first classic Doctor Who serials I ever saw, so I kind of just have that connection with it, and the set design is really good. Also, it has the 4th Doctor and Sarah Jane, so that kind of speaks for itself. Theodore Doughton asks, do you like Classic Who as much as more than or less than New Who? Less. People have accused me of hating Classic Who or not watching it, but I have seen most of it, and it's just not really a style I'm familiar with, and I struggle to get into it the same way as I would with New Who. There are just too many filler episodes and a lot of bad pacing to fill time. I still do like classic Doctor Who though, I just prefer New Who because it's what I've become so used to. Jake Barrett asks, what's your opinion on Nyssa from Classic Who? She's a queen, and I simp for her. Jedi Spartan 38 asks, are there any lost episodes that you desperately want to see animated after the latest project is completed? I wouldn't say I'm desperate for any specific stories to be animated, but I'd love to get a Space Pirates animation. There's almost nothing left of the original story, even with the one surviving episode, and some actors aren't even represented because they have no reference shots, so they can get really creative with it because they can do it from the ground up and completely reimagine it as a better story. BJ Jones asks, what's your favourite Doctor Who quote? There are too many to count, but I love the quote from Blink about the rain. It always gives me chills and stuck in my mind for long after the episode came out.
It was raining when we met.
It's the same rain.
Theodore Doughton asks, do you think the Moffat era is better or worse than the Russell T Davies era? And what is your least favourite Moffat season? The Russell T Davies era is my overall favourite era, mainly because of nostalgia, but there's also a lot of quality in the stories and it's just so consistent. But I don't hate the Moffat era, it's just not really as good, although I adore the Capaldi era. For me, it's the Smith era that drops the ball, and Series 7-8 is just a complete shambles for me, and I don't hugely rate Series 5 or 6 either, which, saying Series 5 is bad is pretty much a hot take. Leaf Helland asks, out of all the Doctor Who series, what is your absolute favourite? It's an eternal struggle between Series 4 and 9. I can never pick one over the other, they're just both amazing. Theodore Dawson asks, what do you think of Hellbent, the sequel to Heaven Sent, and the backlash against it? I like it and I can't wait to ruffle some feathers when I eventually get round to making a Defending the Despised of it. It's very much unfairly hated, and I do enjoy it. Cole Pillack asks, do you think that the role of the Doctor should always be given to a Brit? Yeah, or at least someone who can put on a convincing enough accent. I just think it's so ingrained within our cultural identity that it should keep the aspect of having the Doctor at least sound British. Stefan asks, what unpopular opinion do you have about Doctor Who that you've never shared? I can't really think of one I haven't shared, but I don't think I've ever said that I don't at all care for Amy Pond. So I guess there's that. Tharies is going to kill me for that one. Grom Boxman asks, what are your favourite tracks from the soundtrack of Doctor Who? So many. Here's a list of some of my favourites because there are too many to say. Blair TV asks, what's your opinion on the state of the Doctor Who fandom at the moment? I can't even stand the word fandom. Personally, I don't really keep an ear to the ground when it comes to Doctor Who fanbase, so I can't say much. But I think it's definitely less toxic than it was during Series 12, probably thanks to lockdown. It kind of brought everyone together. Unfortunately, it begins to be getting quite toxic again. I just think that with the way the internet is, it's inevitable. It will always be divisive and polarising. It's always been the case with all sci-fi franchises. It's just that the internet signal boosts that discontent and dissatisfaction and encourages the outrage culture. Because it's easier to voice your anger, so it gets louder and toxicity breathes faster. Anyway, I think that's enough questions for now. I've answered quite a lot and this has gone on very long, but I might do another one down the line, not too far away. But that's all for this Q&A. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I am actually setting up a Patreon. I've thought about it ages and ages. I was going to make a big fancy sketch to announce it or something, but that's not happening. I can't organise it, so I'm just going to go ahead and launch it. More details probably on screen right now, but it's early access. Most of the stuff you sort of expect from Patreon. It's just to help support me, I guess. Everyone has one, and YouTube doesn't pay very well. Let's just say that. So if you want to help support the channel, sign up for the Patreon. Plenty of goodies, and as time goes on, I'll keep adding more and more stuff to make it worth your time, because I want to give back. So Patreon is in the description and in the comments, and thanks for watching.